The card that we're going to talk about today has the potential to be the absolute most busted card from Core Set 2021. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to a combination of Magic history and Magic combo video. I don't talk about combos and things that you can do that often, but it does dovetail nicely with the card that we're going to talk about. And in all honesty, the combo's pretty insane and super easy. So the card that we are looking at is on the screen right now. It is Contagious Snoop, a silly little goblin card. And every once in a while, silly little goblin cards will surprise you in how useful they can be. So Contagious Snoop is 2 red for a 2/2 Goblin Rogue, which is interesting to note because there was a time where the rogue creature type really mattered back in the Lorwyn block. So this is something you could slot into a rogue deck if you so desired, if you're going to play a black-red rogue goblin build. And the abilities are play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast Goblin Spells from the top of your library, and as long as the top card of your library is a Goblin card, conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. So on the surface, this is a very weird card. I love the artwork. I love that you can see somebody, they're in their house, and they're kind of like hiding back behind the window frame. They look annoyed more than fearful. You know what I mean? You know how there are some like, it's religious groups who will come and knock on your door and be like, have you heard the good news? It's kind of that vibe where she's standing back, either that or he's like a salesman or something. It's like, I'm just gonna stand here and hope that this guy goes away. Nobody's home. It's got that kind of a vibe. And the Contagious Snoop, he's living up to his name. He's very conspicuous. It's broad daylight. He's right up at a window. He's not like kind of peeking over a ledge. He's literally got his big stupid nose pressed up against the glass like a kid in a candy store, which is a lot of fun. Let's be real. So this is an interesting concept for a card. Now, the first ability where it says, play with the top card of your library revealed, that actually makes me think of Goblin Spy, which this card has always tickled my funny bone. 1 red to put out. It's a 1/1 goblin. You play with the top card of your library revealed. That's its entire ability. Just pay 1 mana for a 1/1 to play with the top card of your library revealed. And if you look at that, obviously, we've come a long way from Goblin Spy to get to Contagious Snoop. But I love it because the Goblin Spy is literally standing there over these other goblins, staring at them with a spyglass. And the flavor text just adds an extra dimension of fun to it, saying, isn't he on our side? Yes. Why is he spying on us? Don't ask. That is some silly fun. Let's be real. I definitely enjoy that. And his second ability is actually genuinely powerful. Being able to cast Goblin Spells from the top of your library, when it comes to like red decks and specifically Goblin decks, it's about go, and then can't go anymore. It's basically like take your hot rod, fill it full of super fuel, lay your pedal on the metal, and pray to God you get across that finish line first. That is very much the red philosophy, right? Where it's like, I'm going to come at you fast and furious to start with, but then I'm going to somewhat peter out. And we've seen different answers to this. There are a number of different ways that red addresses this problem. Some of it is with to a lesser degree, the rummage mechanic, which is the mechanic that says discard some cards to draw some cards, either discard a card and draw a card, or discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards, whatever it is. It's essentially like card filtering. And the idea behind that is you can pitch extra lands. You can discard extra lands that you've drawn that you don't need, because these decks are very sleek and quick and have low mana requirements. So rummaging allows you to go ahead and get rid of the dead weight to ideally get things that will be more useful to you. This is a step further than that. Yes, sometimes you're going to have a land or, an instant. It depends. The more creatures you have in your deck, the more tribal your deck is, the more powerful this effect becomes. And there is the fact that your opponent does know what's coming to somewhat offset that, right? Your opponent will always get to see what's on top of your deck. They're gaining information from this, so it's not like fully a one-sided advantage. They're going to be able to see all the goblin spells you're able to cast. They're going to be able to see other spells that are on top of your deck that aren't goblin spells that are going to be coming. So there is that informational nature of it to somewhat offset it. But being able to cast goblin spells from the top of your library is going to combine quite well with cards like Goblin War Chief that reduce the cost of goblins while also giving them haste. You're going to be able to blast an army out very, very quickly. Now, the most curious part of this card is the third ability that says as long as the top card of your library is a goblin card, Contagious Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. So, I mean, honestly, when it comes to how this works from a flavor perspective, I don't understand how any of this works. Why does somebody snooping on you and snooping around equal everybody getting to see the top card of your library? Why does this goblin snooping around allow you to cast spells from the top of your library? Is the idea that he kind of snoops around, spots a house that's empty and like waves his fellow goblins onwards? Maybe. But with the third ability, why does he have the ability of the next goblin that's going to show up? That doesn't tie in flavor-wise. So overall, the flavor of this card, when you take the art, you take the name, that stuff works together pretty well. The abilities, not as much, right? But that's not that big a deal. Overall, this is a pretty powerful feeling card just on its own. But I did mention that this has the potential to be the absolute most busted card from 2021. And for that, I'm talking specifically about moving outside of Standard into other formats like Modern or anything older, because Contagious Snoop can actually be used in combination with one other card to create a 2-card win setup. That's pretty insane. What's more insane is you can have this setup ready to run on the third turn of the game. All you need to do is put out a second turn Contagious Snoop, and then as long as on the, obviously certain conditions have to be met. This does require having a particular card on top of your deck, and that card is Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. So if you don't know who Kiki Jiki is, then I'm guessing you don't really play the older formats or are just new to the game, because Kiki Jiki is a well-known combo dude. There are a number of different variations that have shown up where you can abuse Kiki Jiki. His name is fun to say as well. Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker, and we're going to use the Champions of Kamigawa edition because I like the original. He looks like the goblins from Kamigawa are the most distinctive goblins of any goblins ever made in Magic the Gathering. They have this weird, rocky, lumpy kind of form with crazy pointy noses and just this whole vibe that makes them feel very different. And Kiki Jiki has these little, flaming antennas as well. Now, what is Kiki Jiki? 3 red and 2 for a 2/2 with haste. Tap him to put a creature token into play that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control. That creature token has haste. Sack it at the end of turn. And the artwork shows Kiki Jiki pointing as he's created a copy of a dragon, which actually, you would figure the dragons would be legendary. So it does contradict what's going on a little, because the dragons in Kamigawa were legendary, but either way, it doesn't change how impressive the artwork is. And I like the fact that it is showing that this is a copy of a creature by giving it this flaming outline. The fires are just at the outer edge, like you kind of traced along his edges with fire. I dig that. So, how does this all work? Well, you need to have Kiki Jiki on the top of your deck. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, how am I supposed to get Kiki? Great, you've got a 2-card combo, but how often is it going to show up with Kiki Jiki actually being on top of my deck? Well, there are actually a number of ways to manipulate your deck in terms of getting Kiki Jiki to the top. There are multiple goblins in Magic the Gathering that will allow you to search through your deck for goblins and put them on top of your deck. So you can use one of those goblins to go ahead and grab Kiki Jiki on the third turn and put him on the top of the deck, because you don't need any mana for this combo to work. Once Kiki Jiki is on the top of the library, the Conspicuous Snoop has Kiki Jiki's ability because it's an activated ability. Now, he doesn't have Kiki Jiki's haste, because note that the Conspicuous Snoop only gains the activated ability. So you do need to have had the Conspicuous Snoop out for a full turn, or have some other way that you've given it haste on the second turn. But either way, we're looking at a scenario where you've waited a turn, it's the third turn, you have the Conspicuous Snoop out, you have Kiki Jiki on top of your library. Now, you can tap the Conspicuous Snoop to make a copy of itself, because Kiki Jiki will let you target any non-legendary creature you control. And that worked fine when it came out, because, okay, you can't copy Kiki Jiki, no worries, we don't have to worry about any weird kind of shenanigans that way. He's legendary, we've got that covered. But Conspicuous Snoop is not legendary. So he goes, I can target myself. So he taps, makes a copy of himself. That new copy is given haste by the ability, so that can basically tap to copy itself, and you can make infinite copies. Now, you do run into the problem that these copies will all be tapped. You'll only have one untapped copy that doesn't have haste. And at the end of turn, at the beginning of the end step, these all have a trigger that say, sacrifice me, right? You lose every token at the beginning of the end step. There's a couple of ways to mitigate this. One, if you want, is you can use something like Skirk Prospector, which is a card we just recently saw in Dominaria, who is a one-cast goblin, so you could even put him on the first turn. Sacrifice a goblin for a red mana. And that essentially turns this into an infinite mana engine, because you can make as many Snoops as you want and sack them all for mana. But that's if you don't realize you don't even need to do that. You can just take advantage of the way that end of turn triggers operate. So here's how it works with Kiki Jiki's end of turn trigger. You make a copy of the creature, then when you reach the end of turn step, at the beginning of the end of the turn, the trigger for these creatures to be sacrificed will go off, and they have to be sacrificed. But after the beginning of the end turn, but while you're still in the end of the turn, you have the ability to activate this. So what you can do is just wait until your opponent's turn. So you put out the Conspicuous Snoop, and you have Kiki Jiki on top of your library. Now you just wait for your opponent's turn. During their end step, after you've gone past the point where end of turn triggers would go off, that's when you tap the Snoop, and you make as many Snoops as you want, and then it moves to your turn. You untap all of your creatures, and you can swing with an infinite amount of Conspicuous Snoops. And this is an incredibly resilient combo as well, because if they try and destroy the Snoop, you can tap it in response to make another Snoop. If you tap the Snoop and they destroy it in response, it still makes a copy of itself, so you have a new one that's ready to go, and you can just continue on with your plan. It's actually very difficult to disrupt that setup. I am not an expert when it comes to modern or older formats, but this genuinely feels like it has the potential to be a deck that you can build around. It feels like you can easily win games very rapidly. A third turn victory, I guess fourth turn victory really. Third turn you get the conditions for it, let your opponent have their third turn, and then you win on the fourth turn. So a deck that can steal just the entire game if your opponent isn't ready for it after they only get 3 turns feels pretty impressive to me. And the combo is just nutty. I already liked Conspicuous Snoop and was thinking about making it the card to talk about today, even without the Kiki Jiki combo. But putting that in makes this card feel mega busted. And I'm sure there's other nonsense you can do with it as well. It just feels like the Kiki Jiki Snoop combo is the best thing that you can do, at least on the surface. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you all very soon.